feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer.
I don't care what you think about what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the Cowboys.
Call this college rule.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. Dom and Chris here. And before we begin, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, do all the social stuff for us. Instagram, YouTube, everything. So please, for the quality content that we keep producing here at Engel Studio in downtown Tucson for all your audio needs, give us a follow, like, and subscribe.
That's
right.
right.
Do the right thing, everybody.
Do the right thing.
Do the right thing. And today we're going to talk about a future Hall of Famer on the diamond who just ended his career.
Without a doubt. We're talking about Miguel Cabrera. I knew I was going to do that.
The Americanized version. No.
I'll say this. If he wasn't the best hitter in the season, he was the Silver Slugger.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's what I mean.
For like a decade, Miguel was literally, if he wasn't the best, he was the second best. And you were just like, oh, yeah, I kind of forgot how great he was for a decade.
You almost compare him. He's like the American League Albert Pujols.
Yes.
When he was with
Somebody
St.
said
Louis.
that, yes.
That was what he was
Somebody said that in an article, and I was
top
like,
player.
I never put that together, but that really is, yeah.
And they were righties hitting for high average, which was always like
A rare, yeah.
You know, not too many do that.
And they did it, yeah.
And they
almost
did it
at the same time.
basically together.
Yes.
Essentially, they started their careers at very similar times. Miguel, born April 18th, 1983 in Maracay, Aragua, Siete, Venezuela.
Nice.
Look at that. Dad, Miguel. Mom, Gregoria. His mom, though, was the softball player, essentially.
Yeah.
She was on the state and national teams for Venezuela. Would even needle Miguel by telling him she could hit better than him. Raised him and his sister Ruth, and when basically she became a mother, she said, well, either I play or he does.
Well, it's interesting because obviously because of the time, if you will, but a lot of the influence comes from these guys' fathers from playing it. But
like when we did the Alomars, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. Miguel's literally came from his mother who played softball and could out hit him.
He's a catcher and third baseman.
That's got to be embarrassing when you're 13 and your mom's cranking home runs.
I want to do that. I want to do what my mom does. The laundry? Nah, hit dingers.
Oh, hit dingers.
Gregoria's brother David actually ran a baseball training program. Miguel, growing up, played both baseball and volleyball.
Yeah, I did see that. He played
that'd be
with his
kinda
uncles,
cool.
but he excelled in volleyball, but he just didn't have the height.
No, not enough. He was actually going to train with David before signing his big league deal, because as we probably talked in the podcast, when you're 16, you can sign a major league contract.
Yep.
If you're overseas. But David ended up dying, and Miguel has to play with a local team in Cagua and still go to school. And the deal was with his parents, you have to go to school and graduate high school. And to make the money to send him on the traveling and national teams, his mom sold handcrafts and organized raffles, and his dad fixed cars, which they did basically everything they could to let him live his dream, which is pretty incredible.
Well, and play these kind of like little international tourneys that I think a lot of the South American players kind of play, where it's very like you have to pay some sort of thing to kind of travel around and play in these like
so the major league teams can see you.
Exactly. These bigger, like literally so they can get scouted out. And luckily for them, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they looked at Miguel and they were just like, yes, the Marlins ended up signing him to what we see to a lot of these contracts that literally go through their entire farm system.
Exactly.
So you see him like show up at 17 and instead of going to high school and college, or at least finish high school, whatever you want to say, he literally is just like, no, I'm just playing baseball.
No, this is my job. So in 1999, he signed at age 16 by the Marlins, right after they've dismantled that World Series winning team.
Yep.
So they're starting from scratch. They've just drafted Josh Beckett. They're starting to kind of acquire talent. He absolutely starts tearing up minor league pitching. The second he gets there.
I was going to say, there's not really a downswing in his minor league. He just goes through from one season to the next, and you're just like, all right.
It's like a Robbie Alomar episode.
Yes.
Where it's just like, I don't know, I'm here to do exactly what I'm doing. By 2003, he's tearing up Double-A, hitting 365, and he's a 6'4", 200-pound corner infielder and corner outfielder.
He's in that Carolina league.
And he's in that Carolina league. And you know what? He's not hitting ground balls.
We all know what happens in that Carolina league.
Well, he met a woman there.
That's right.
Older woman.
We got to get you a nickname, honey.
God. And, so he ends up being called up after basically just
dominating throughout every minor league system. You know what I mean? Which that's when you look at a guy getting called up at 20 years old and you're just like, this makes sense. So June 20th, 2003, he makes his debut. And then what does he do on his debut?
Game-winning home run.
But hit a walk-off. Yeah. But hit a walk-off and hits 2 in the game. And you're just like, oh, okay. This guy's going to be one of the best hitters.
He should be there.
You know? Yes.
They have a new manager that season, took over halfway through, Jack McKeon, who ruined my childhood by trading all of my favorite Padres away.
For dishwashers.
For washing machines, yes, right. In 87 games, and this is a young Marlins team, too.
Yes.
This is a very young and up-and-coming, you got Dontrell Willis. Like, if your oldest guys circa 2003 are like Derek Lee and Mike Lowell, that's a young freaking team.
Yep.
And they managed to snag one of the wild card spots, and in his age 20 season, hits 268, 12 dingers, and 62 ribbies. He's 20 years old. Mm-hmm. He's 20.
And moves to the cleanup spot. Mm-hmm. So, like, he starts, obviously, like, later in the lineup, and then just they can't deny his bat. You know?
Like, you can't take him out for someone else because he's 20. It's like, well, no, he's raking.
Yes.
Hits 3 RBIs in their 5-game NLDS win over the Giants. And then in the in the NLCS, they play the Cubs. And my God, does he have a series for Florida. Hits 333, 3 dingers, 6 RBIs, and in Game 7 in the first inning, hits a 3-run home run to basically suck all of the air out of Wrigley Field after the Bartman game.
Yep.
Batting cleanup. They make the World Series, and they play the Yankees. While he doesn't have a particularly great hitting series, he has arguably one of the most important hits of the series. You want to get into that?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's when you look at, like we keep saying, like him being 20.
He's a hard 20, though.
The what game was this?
This is Game 4.
And
they're down 2-1 in the series.
And you think of like, oh, that's like a veteran making that kind of, you know what I mean? Where it's like the pressure is so ridiculous that when you look back at his career, you're like, oh yeah, he was 20 when this happened. Like that's what I always think. He was up against I forget.
First inning against Roger Clemens.
And it's the first time he ever faced him too.
A particularly chemically enhanced Roger and Clemens at this point too.
Well, because he came into the league in June, so like he's never gonna have faced them before. No. You know what I mean? And they're not interleaguing it, and So Roger Clemens
comes in, not clucking like a chicken after a he's roided out. Let's be honest, it was happening, and he brushes him back in this at bat. Throws him a brush,
says something,
gives him some chin music,
and says something. Yeah.
Thinking he could intimidate a 20-year-old Miguel Cabrera. And what does Miguel Cabrera do after said brushback pitch?
Rips a hit. Rips a home run.
Home run.
Yeah. Does he get beamed?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was just some chin music.
Okay.
For him. But they end up winning the game.
Rips, was it a 2? I think it was a 2-run shot.
2-run dinger.
Yeah.
They ended up winning that game, and they ended up winning the next 2, and they won the World Series. They won the World Series his rookie year.
But if you think about the Yankee lineup with having Roger Clemens and then him just like hitting that home run, and you're just like, oh, maybe that's like a huge momentum shift right here, and a 20-year-old World Series champ. So.
I bet you Roger Clemens figured, I'm going to throw one high and tight, and he will get off the plate, and he will be just discombobulated.
Exactly,
or
at least not as confident to come in.
Did want to add this year, he was the NL Rookie of the Month in July and September. Surprised he didn't win the Rookie of the Year, though, that year, which is kind of...
I agree.
He has other awards he'll end up winning.
I agree, though.
From 2004 to 2007, this is when the Marlins are mediocre. They're not They're basically kind of coasting off of. Granted, they're getting rid of guys like Lowell. They're getting rid of Lee because they can't pay him. But this is when you start to see Miguel Cabrera emerge as one of the best players in the National League, if not all of baseball.
And consistent. That's something that you kind of see for when he ends up leaving the Marlins. You're just like his consistency. And in 2004, he almost bats 300. 33 home runs, which is such a staple in his career, and he makes his first All-Star game, and you're just like, oh yeah, this guy's 21, and he's an All-Star.
And he finally, by the end, finds a permanent home at third base because he's been playing
that too.
left field. He won the Silver Bat in left field in 2005, and then at third base in 2006. 4 straight seasons of 100-plus RBIs, and the only Marlin to do that in that many consecutive seasons, which is like...
He got into a pretty nice altercation with Scott Olsen that year too.
Yes, he did.
Which is it's such an interesting thing because every time I see these kind of fights, I always think of Major League, and when he's like and it's whoever he's like saying he sandbagged him. Yep. You know what I mean? Like it's so good because that's what I think of what Scott Olsen was saying to him, and they obviously like get into like a scuffle in the dugout and shit.
You ever take another play like you did today? I'm gonna cut your nuts off, stuff them down your throat.
It's so good.
So over this period, I didn't want to add. So these 4 combined seasons, he hits 319. 758 hits you're averaging almost 200 a clip. That's ridiculous.
Yep.
And he's 24 by the end of this span. I mean, unfortunately, now because the contract he signed out of Venezuela, it is now expired by 2007. Now the Marlins are in full, let's just eliminate any sort of salary we have on this roster right now.
Well, they went to arbitration, didn't they?
Well, they went to arbitration after 2006.
After 2006, because he actually signed. I saw this because he actually signed a 1-year deal that
it was like renegotiated.
It was yes, because they were in such bad. He had his 500th RBI that year in 2007.
It's ridiculous.
That's how ridiculously good he is, but. This is the thing that the Marlins knew they could not keep him. So he ends up making a trade to the Detroit Tigers, and he signs a huge deal.
$152.3 million, signs that deal on March 22nd, 2008. So they needed to get something for him.
Yes.
They ended up sending him and Dontrell Willis, pitcher, to the Tigers for a bunch of dudes. I think there's 6 players.
Yes.
Andrew Miller, pretty much the only one I know, maybe Cameron Maben, but nothing. They're not getting commensurate value. They're just salary dumping it.
Yep.
Tigers decided to move him to first base, though, in 2008, because this is when Miggy starts, his baseball skill is all there, but he starts packing on the LBs a little bit.
And it's so hard to say because does that contribute for his power hitting?
I think he's cultivating mass, Chris, is what he's doing.
If you're cultivating it, then start harvesting it. Stop cultivating it. But that's my question: is he sacrificing it defensive skill for offensive skill?
I mean, all I'm going to say is in his first year in Detroit, he leads the AL in homers with 37. The AL player of the month in July, and hits 293 with 127 RBIs. All I'm saying is a diet of rum ham where you eat your calories and alcohol is okay.
That's right.
2009
starts getting shots for diabetes.
Don't say diabetes. What diabetes? 2009.
You used to have a garbage bag full of burritos. Chimichangas even.
This is where I'm getting all my clothes. Tommy Bahama. There goes the Admiral. Oh, boy. Okay. There is 2009. Hits 324. Has over 100 RBIs, 34 dingers, and they're in the AL Central lead for most of the season.
Yep.
For most of the season. Unfortunately, the Twins end up coming back, and, before a very pivotal game, a playoff play-in game, on October 3rd, 2009, he has an drunk altercation with his wife, and GM Dave Dombrowski comes to bail him out of jail. No charges. Plays in the game the next day. has a dinger early in the game, but it's thrown out at home, and they lose in extra innings and their playoffs.
And that was back when boys could be boys.
Boys
you know
could be
what I'm
boys.
saying.
Ninos could be Ninos. Good job, Miguel.
Well, and then we get into his best stretch where
He goes to rehab before 2010.
I was
for 90
just
days.
going to say, I'm wondering if, because he kind of had some alcohol issues, if you will. I wonder if this kind of makes it to where he really focuses in, because 2011, he has his first batting title. And in September in that year, he ends up hitting 429, 6 home runs. He ends the season with 317 and a slugging of 555, where he is such a great hitter in this era that it's hard to even deny. This is what I mean. He was 1 or 2 for 5 to 6 years.
But he's not even a singles hitter for average. He hits for power.
Yes.
He draws walks. His slugging percentage is unbelievable in his OPS. And in 2010, what I forgot to mention, he led the AL in RBIs.
Oh, yeah. He's an RBI.
Machine.
100, yes, 100, at least 100 every single year. I think it's for 11 years. It's crazy. And he, in this era, really is, like you were saying, the cleanup hitter that you want, because he literally just hits for power, but he also is just a great hitter.
And he's doing this while, maybe getting into some shenanigans, because like we said before, 2011, on February 16th, he's arrested in spring training. He was with his family at a steakhouse in Fort Pierce, Florida. What ends up happening is the cops find him next to his broken down car while he's drinking a whiskey bottle pulled over on the side of the road. He threatened the manager and customers at a steakhouse. The police were called on him for driving aggressively and forcing vehicles off the road. But you know what? It doesn't matter when you slug 555 and take your team to the postseason.
That's right. That's what I like to hear.
Even though they lost to the Rangers in 6 that year, still hit over 400 in that series.
He was a great playoff player, even though only one World Series.
2012 makes his 3rd All-Star game in a row. He fractures his orbital bone at third base on a grounder that kind of misplayed. And Chris, maybe you don't need your eyes to hit a baseball.
He didn't
in 2012. This could go down as the best offensive season overall in this century, this 2012 season. I without hyperbole, I mean, get into it, Chris. It's amazing.
Like you said, he might be the last Triple Crown winner ever, just because of the way baseball is now. He hit 330 with 44 home runs with 131 RBIs, and his slugging was over 600.
Yeah.
It's such a ridiculous feat where he was he wasn't tied in any category with anybody. He literally was like the outright winner of this Triple Crown. And the Tigers, not just talking about Miguel, the Tigers are really good this year.
Did want to bring a couple interesting facts, though.
Give it to me.
Number 1, he's the only player to lead his league in batting average, homers, and RBIs in separate seasons before winning the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
Number 2, he is the first non-U.S. born player since 1887 to do this. Tip O'Neill. So before everything happened in baseball, essentially. But as far as you said about the Tigers, they were a juggernaut this year.
He was the first infielder since forever to get it.
Probably Ducky Medwick was the last.
Yeah, there were so many of those that listed out. We were just like, oh, he was the first. Just like, okay, first back-to-back batting champ since Frank Thomas, and we all know Frank cranked those triples. So
Miguel was a triple hitter, not at this stage of his career.
Not at this time.
He's cultivating mass, Chris.
But everybody thought them going into the World Series, they really had a great shot.
I thought they were going to beat the brakes off San Francisco. I really thought they'd annihilate them.
And they got annihilated.
Good pitching beats good, because this is when
swept in 4.
Lincecum was really good. Zito had come back and had kind of a renaissance postseason. And Matt Cain was one of the most underrated starters for that window of time in his prime where he was just a stud.
So,
yeah.
And this is the best Tigers chance at this. They get swept by the Giants. That year, he's MVP. He's Triple Crown, World Series loser, which is such a stupid thing to say.
I don't know if you remember, but when people were, this is freaking nerds, they were saying after a Triple Crown season, he did not deserve the MVP because of Mike Trout and his ever popular WAR stats.
Yeah, I hate that.
Triple Crown!
I know.
Do you know how often that fucking happens?
It's insane.
Carl Yastrzemski, and that was like 50 years before that. Jesus Christ. Anyway, sorry. But I do remember that, and it really made me mad. I'm like, it's a goddamn Triple Crown!
I know.
All right, so 2013, didn't want to bring up, he has 100 RBIs this year, 100 plus RBIs. His 10th season in a row with over 100 ribbies.
He's MVP again in 13.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
And they said before the All-Star break might be one of the best offensive outputs that we've seen, where he was batting .365, 30 home runs. This is before the All-Star break. He had 95 RBIs. So he got a little bit injured towards the second half of the season where he missed some games, and people were saying like that output for the whole season would have been insane.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, and this is the year he sets his career high in batting average with 348. Yep. So, I mean, they go to the playoffs, they beat the A's in 5, and then they play that series in Boston in the LCS, the famous one with the Ortiz dinger.
Yep.
Because Detroit had him on the ropes, too, in that series.
Yeah, they really did.
Surprised that they weren't able to pull that out.
Well, Boston had that American spirit behind them.
They did.
That was the problem with Detroit.
American
They turned their back on America.
You know, Detroit got in that pressure cooker, if you know what I mean. Anyway, 2014...
Contract extension, the biggest one in baseball. Unbelievably well deserved. You can't deny it. 8 years at $248 million, but the actual total, because it was an extension, I think was like plus 250.
It was 290 with the extension.
290, yeah.
Which that'll buy you a lot of steakhouses to threaten people in.
I'll buy a steakhouse just to go in to threaten people.
Yeah, just to yell at people.
That's right.
Hey, peanuts on the ground!
We're allergic, sir.
All-Star again. 52 doubles this season. I want to bring. The dude is just an extra base hit machine. It's not like he's Kyle Schwarber hitting 188 with 40 dingers. I mean, this
100 RBIs. I don't know if you saw that. He does it every single year. He hit his 2000th hit. Just as an offensive output, you just cannot deny it.
2015 wins the batting title again, which. There aren't a hell of a lot of right-handed hitters with this many batting titles.
Fourth AL batting title. Yeah. So, and sixth Silver Slugger. So that's the thing that I was saying. It was just like he was the best and second best hitter in baseball for this whole time.
And he led the AL in on-base percentage.
Yep.
Which, you can't deny. But by 2016, 2017... injuries are starting to kind of pile up for him. He could still rake, but he's not in the best of shape.
Yep. You see him, he has like back problems. I think he had 2 herniated discs.
Torn biceps.
And this is what I mean, where his body kind of starts to break down. They move him to designated hitter, I think, in 2019 or so. Mm-hmm. But that's when you start to see like him still being able to hit at a consistent level in this era from like 17, 18, 19, because his body is really he has a lot of injuries, but he's still putting out like good numbers.
He's still hitting 280 in his late 30s with all of these injuries like piling up. In 2020 is the COVID year, so
shortened season.
He does get to 2,000 hits as a Tiger, though.
I thought that was cool too.
Really great, which is really great. 2021 though, he ends up reaching a couple of magical milestones this year, which you don't see. You see guys reach maybe one year and then maybe one another, but
2021 was huge.
Yeah,
hit 500, his fifth 500th home run. I am just fucking off of it right now. And in the same time, he hits his 3,000th hit, which I think the 3,000th hit is the thing that is so crazy to me, because I don't know if it's because the home run numbers got inflated for a certain time.
Yeah.
But just that 3,000 hit is so wild.
It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. He was basically you're in Hank Aaron territory.
Exactly.
With that.
Yes.
I mean, to be consistently that good for that long, and it's not that you're not just hitting for power. You're hitting for average. You're winning batting titles.
Well, to have them both too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that's such a proving fact that he was just one of the best offensive players without a doubt in his era.
Yeah, because 2021 he gets his 500th homer, and then 2022 he gets his 3,000th hit. So just like really early in the season.
Yep.
So April 23rd gets it off of the Rockies. He's the 33rd member of the 3,000 hit club, 500 home run club. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Without a doubt, going to make the Hall of Fame in his first ballot. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There's stuff like that where he was such a great player. The only thing, and I bet he wishes this too, is he probably had a World Series with the Tigers. That
Yeah.
one, because guys say this, they're just like, we had one shot, and that one shot where they got swept by the Giants, where you're just like, we just weren't there for it.
It was just the entire postseason. San Francisco shut everyone down.
They had the best pitching. Yeah,
I mean,
their pitching wins World Series.
that's exactly what it did.
It's what our fathers have told us for years.
It's what old white men still
That's
say,
right.
but it actually rings true. Oddly enough, for
I know,
it's
it
like
actually-
it's like the last old white baseball man like thing. You're like,
Yep.
they're right.
Yeah.
like I
God
mean,
damn it.
If you can't win if you can't score.
Nope.
But
seriously.
Finishing his career with those types of milestones is absolutely unbelievable, though. As far as Miguel Cabrera, he just retired after this season with Detroit. Kind of did his farewell tour around all the major league stadiums to celebrate a Hall of Fame career, which just so unbelievable. So the amount, the batting titles is what gets me. With how many 500 home run club guys have that many batting titles by themselves? I don't think any do.
I was going to say, you might see him get one, but he literally had 4 ALs. And you're just like, oh, yeah, he was the best hitter. Not the best power hitter, the best hitter. You know, that's...
And a couple of seasons, he led the AL in home runs.
I know. So he was the best power hitter at that time, too. And that's why I think, for me, packing on those LBs was exactly what he needed.
He cultivated mass to get into that 500 home run club and that
right.
600 double club, Mr. Miguel Cabrera. And
oh, yeah, 600 doubles, too. I forgot that. That was...
I would say,
so good.
I mean, without a doubt, you know, we've shit on the Hall of Fame voters before for baseball on this podcast, but 6 years from now, yeah, he'll be in Cooperstown, first ballot. I mean, there's no debate unless, you know, it comes out that he was doing nefarious and never had the body of someone that looked like they did performance-enhancing drugs.
That was the other thing.
When you have a garbage bag of chimichangas, you know, that's how you cultivate the mass to win
right.
a triple crown.
When it looks
Miguel
like
Cabrera.
I'm stepping up to the plate, you know that's what's right. Miguel Cabrera, one of the best baseball players of his era.
Thanks, Miggy.